welcome to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It is the Emerald Enthusiast here today with a special guest.
Yes, we do have a special guest, so I'll throw it over to you to introduce her because you are better at introductions than I am. So go ahead, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and beings of the Omniverse, please welcome to Multiverse Musings, a writer whose recent credits include Harley Quinn and Legends of the Dark Knight. She's also the writer on the upcoming Wonder Woman Evolution. She is also a martial arts fighter. She will write your favorite comic book character, then kick your head off your shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Stephanie Phillips.
That is the greatest intro of all time.
You are most welcome, ma'am.
Well, thank you.
You can take that snippet and use it wherever you want, so feel free.
I love it.
If you want that to be your answer machine, go for it, whatever you want.
You know what the difficult part was, like, narrowing down all that you've done. Like, I looked at like your body of work and I was like, well, this is really impressive.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you both so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk with you.
It's our pleasure, and being as Harley Quinn is one of my has become one of my favorite DC characters. It's a pleasure to talk to the current custodian of the character. So it's our pleasure. Thank you. So I'll start us off if that's okay, Donnie.
Yes, sir. By all means.
Okay. So first up, let's get straight to how it all started. So what was your first exposure to comics, and what were some of your favorite titles or characters?
I kind of fell in love with it through Batman the Animated Series, which seems to be a very common answer for most 90s kids. It's a lot of fun talking with a lot of my editors at DC, and we kind of we were just in New York Comic Con, and that was the thing a lot of us were talking about, like just how impactful that show was to a certain generation. And at the time I just knew the show. Like I would sit there and watch the show and like act out the episodes. So even if I had seen them, it was like, all right, yeah, this is the one where Robin is kidnapped or whatever, and it's like I'm trying to play all the parts in the episode. Like I'm Batman and Robin, so I have to save myself and beat up the joke. Like it was just like my favorite thing as a kid. I had Batman costumes, Robin costumes, and I was in love with it. And then I discovered that the world did not end with the TV show, and that comics existed, and that was incredibly exciting. Especially as a kid, I was really just invested in the artwork. Like, I loved the design. I thought the Batman artwork was just incredible. And I think I kind of branched out from there, but primarily grew up reading DC comics. I really liked Green Arrow because I was very into Robin Hood mythology as a child. So Green Arrow became like this weird fixation I had as a child. So still love them. But yeah, that's kind of how I guess I got into comics. I think the first full set of anything I owned was The Long Halloween. Until then, I was really just like picking stuff up, and that's when I realized like there are contained stories within these, and so I think that helped start the love of comics through Batman.
That's awesome, and I can definitely relate to Batman the Animated Series because to this day, whenever I'm reading a Batman comic, even though I can't do the voice justice, it's Kevin Conroy's voice that I hear in my head. So I definitely get that.
Yep.
All right, Donnie.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. Can you tell us about the moment in your life that you knew you would become a writer?
I wonder if like I kind of always knew. I would make comic books when I was like 2 and 3 years old. I would draw them, and then even before I was able to write, I would have my dad fill in the dialogue balloons for me. Like all throughout my life, I've always been writing something. Like I want to say like 3rd or 4th grade, I decided I wanted to start my own newspaper, which of course was like the early days of printers. And I don't think my parents knew exactly what I was doing, but I started my own newspaper that had like articles about like squirrels in the neighborhood and like whatever else was going on. And then I just printed a bunch of copies to take around the neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure I got in trouble when they realized how much paper I was using, because it was not, and especially with like printer ink and all of that. So I've always been writing something, and that just seemed like a very natural fit. I've always liked writing. I've gravitated towards creative writing, I've done academic writing. I mean, I once wrote a textbook, which I don't recommend, but I mean, I've done it. So I've written all kinds of things, and you know, it's still something in my life where I just want to keep writing things and seeing other things that I can do with writing as well. You know, I'm interested in doing other things beyond comics. I have done some other things beyond comics, but you know, I am very happy writing comics, and that's something I want to keep doing, but also kind of pushing that boundary as well.
Well, you have a PhD, right?
I do. Yes.
So you have a lot of avenues open.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I taught writing for a long time. I think I taught for 8 or 9 years. Like I started teaching college writing when I was 21, and retired semi-recently around the start of the pandemic. I just had like enough comic work to make this my full-time career. And, you know, I'm really fortunate that I get to do that. So that's awesome. But yeah, I did a PhD in rhetoric and composition with a specialty in technical writing. And I've taught all kinds of classes. I've taught, you know, communication studies. I've taught writing for business majors. I've taught STEM communication for engineering students. I've taught visual rhetoric, which is my favorite because I would always get to do a little bit more with like comics and imagery and artwork in that class. So yeah, I've just always been around writing. I'm fascinated by writing itself, and I really love the way that writing contributes to something much larger in comics, where like I'm a piece of this much larger picture that you get of the finished story. And I love that. I like that feeling of just being a part of something that's bigger than me, and that's a cool place to be creating something.
See, I would have thought that if my professor was a comic book writer, I probably would have thought that was really cool, and you know, it would have been easier to kind of like connect with what they were saying, as opposed to, you know, trying to tell you to write a straightforward essay, and it's like, oh,
I would have gotten annoying. I would have asked so many questions.
Yeah.
Like I would have been tempted to call all hours of the night. Hey, you know, just popped into my head. What do you think about this?
Oh, so kind of like you do with Jeff Thorne on Twitter.
Like after the first semester, you'd be like, "You fail. Stop calling me."
Stop calling me. Oh my god. I think I'm gonna love that. I was like always weird about you know, I didn't want to like on the first day of classes give like an intro of me and my background and be like, and also I write comics, and have people be like, wow, like we don't care or something. So I usually wouldn't bring it up, but eventually I would have a student at least once a semester, like the local comic shops at the last university I taught at all had like coffee bars in them. So I had a lot of students that were always in there. And if I was doing a signing, or, you know, they would heavily promote my work, I remember having students go in there and be like, there's a comic book writer that looks a lot like you. I was like, that's
at some
funny.
point I would probably brought my comic to you and said, would you mind signing this? Like, I know I'm borderline failing your class, but could you sign this? At least make the pain go away.
Oh my god! Yeah,
awesome.
I did have students bring some stuff to sign at one point. I've had that happen, but yeah, I mean, I loved working with my students. I like teaching writing, but yeah, pretty happy to just be doing comics now. That's a nice position to be in.
That's awesome. So tell us how the process of becoming the writer of Harley Quinn came about, and how did the creative team come together?
Yeah, I started working on Harley with Future State. I did the 2 issues during that big kind of crossover event through the DC line. And I had worked with a couple DC editors on some like shorter anthology stories, and I think it went really well. Actually, the first thing at DC I did was with Riley Rossmo, the current artist on Harley. We did a Wildcat short story for the Crimes of Passion Valentine's Day anthology. And I think that was like my real intro into DC. Like, you know, it was kind of like a test run to see how I would do with the story and the pitching and working with Riley and all that stuff. And it was just one of the coolest creative experiences. I mean, Riley is so creative and wants to just collaborate and talk and like make something. And I'm kind of wired that way too. So having a collaborative partner that wants to be super heavily invested like in it with me, we were just like, we were a match from day one. And it's it was clear that we should be working on other stuff together. So Riley and I had started putting like other pitches together at DC. And then once I got Future State and was asked to stay on the main ongoing Harley title that they were relaunching, they asked me, about Riley, because I know some editors there knew we were kind of trying to pitch something together because we wanted to work together. So I think editors at DC like knew that there was an interest there, that there was already a really strong collaborative relationship. And yeah, I think Riley's a great fit. Like there's a really animated like constant motion to his artwork that I think works perfectly for Harley, because she's just never standing still. Like even having a normal conversation, like I love getting to do something where it's like, she might just be talking to Jonathan Crane, but she's doing handstands or, whatever.
Right.
And I love that about her. And it's a little bit like the way I function. Like I always like to be in motion, something like I always have to be doing something. And so that's really fun to work on with Riley. And I think his style complements the version of Harley that we're doing just so well. And, I can see her alive, like on the page. I feel like it's so, there's a lot of movement and there's a lot of like animation in that. And I think a lot of character to his Harley.
Yeah, the art that, from what I noticed, it has a lot of the chaotic energy that Harley has. And you could see that in the art. And it's actually a really good match with the character. And I got to tell you, you wrote something that I didn't know I needed, and it was the chess game between Grundy. Grundy and Harley that in the sewer. And I'm like, I didn't know I wanted this, but I'm glad I have it now. I'm like, when's the rematch? Because that's what I want to see play out.
Right. No, I love Solomon Grundy, and I was so thrilled when I was like, hey, what does everyone think about Grundy kind of being a supporting character for parts of our Harley run? And it ended up being that like our editor is like all in on Grundy and was super thrilled about it. Grundy wasn't currently really being used by too many people in Gotham at that point. And so I was like, awesome. I want him to have this really unique relationship with Harley that I don't think people are going to expect to see. And I want her to kind of be understanding him like in a way that maybe other people aren't. So I was really excited that we got to do that.
And the other thing I thought was pretty cool was when she had her shadow like mimic Batman's shadow, and then she was commenting about how hard it is to do the voice.
Right.
Imagine if I talk like that all the time. I just made me laugh so hard. I was like, "Yep."
So Stephanie, let me ask: have you ever like been on the phone with your editor while also kicking a heavy bag?
Oh God, no. No, but I will say that like that is one of those things that's so fun about Harley is like I love like I like doing fight choreography, and Harley is like somebody asked me once like, have you ever written the same fight scene twice? And it's like, well, maybe I have. I'm not entirely sure. It's hard to say for sure, but I know with Harley I have not. Like I know we've done things with Riley where it's like she just beat somebody with a feather boa, and I don't know if we've seen her like beat up a bunch of psychiatric orderlies with a foam finger before, but that's one of those things about Harley that I just love. You get to like use the environment and kind of invent new ways to blend her fighting style, gymnastics, there's a baseball bat, like whatever she can use. And I think that's super fun.
Well, along those lines, then let me ask you, Harley is one of the most notable breakout characters of the last 30 years. And Batman is one of the most well-known characters in modern human history. Yeah. Is writing their world, is it intimidating?
I think initially, more so with Batman, kind of given what we were saying about like my love for all of this started with Batman, and like my childhood was so Batman centric that I think finally getting a chance to write Batman, while it was like really, really exciting to be asked and knowing that I get to do this and contribute something to this character that I love so much, there was like a really terrifying moment of like, what if I do it wrong? What if I do it bad? Like, what if I can't do it at all? Like, I never like knew what that moment would really feel like. And it was kind of scary, and I think what I took from it is like, I love writing superheroes. I love playing in the DC universe. And I think that there's like so much story and so much stuff there that I want to do. And the cool thing is like, I got to work on Batman once, and then now I'm doing some backups in Detective Comics. And by the time I get to the Detective Comics and what I'm working on, I'm so much more comfortable and relaxed with Batman. It was like I had to like dip my toe in and like kind of see what that felt like and get over that initial anxiety and realize like I have ideas for Batman. I know his voice. I am actually comfortable with him. And I feel like Detective Comics, I hopefully improved on my Batman voice. And that's something that I love. Like the next time I write him again, like I hope it's even stronger than the next. And I just want to keep building on that. And I do that for Harley as well. Like, it was definitely intimidating following people like Amanda and Jimmy and like Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Like these are huge names in comics that have done incredible things with this character. And it was like, wow, that's going to be like my voice coming out of her for a while. And so, yeah, definitely at first there was like the intimidation factor. And now I live with Harley's voice. Like that is something that like clicked for me, and now I can do it very second nature, and I get more comfortable with it every time. So I think our Harley run just is always improving as Riley and I are continuing like to collaborate with each other and learning our characters and universe and growing that universe.
I've got to say, after reading your 2-issue run in Legends of the Dark Knight, I really love that story because it was, especially rereading it now that it's October, it's like hardcore detective story mixed with a ghost story. And I'm like I should have, had I known we were doing this interview when I first read it, I would have waited. Like now instead of rereading it, now would have been my first time reading it because it just fits so perfectly. It's like, man, this is like the perfect time to read this story.
That was a very tight story. Everything fit together so well. You did such a good job on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love Alfred. So I was really excited that I got to do like play with them and put them kind of playing off of each other. I think that was my favorite part of that one. I love Alfred. So
yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Their dynamic is so good, and I'm glad that we get to see him in other places because he's, spoiler, dead in the main continuity, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But speaking of Harley, the central theme in the early issues anyway seems to be redemption. Does that come from a particular place in your life, or is it just a theme that you wanted to touch on?
I think it's a really interesting theme. I remember when I was in grad school, my dissertation director said that as writers, like really of anything, we spend our lives writing the most about things that we don't fully understand because we're trying to make sense of it. Mm-hmm. And I think like redemption and apologies, especially like how we internalize those things, are really difficult for a lot of people. Like it's a pretty common thing, I think, to struggle with just taking responsibility for things, but also putting on that pressure of like, I can never mess up. Like I never want anybody ever in the world to be mad at me. Like that's a horrible feeling. And then it's also just like a really tough pressure to put on yourself. Like everybody messes up at some point, maybe not to the extent of Harley, but there's something really, I promise I have not, killed a bunch of people in Gotham City. But I think there's still something to be said for like how we internalize that and deal with our own sense of guilt and wanting to make right for those things. And then moving past and still knowing that like, if you mess up, what is the line to still be able to contribute something back to society? And is that it? Like, does Harley get this second chance? And especially as we're going to see in some upcoming arcs, that's going to be a really important theme. And a lot of people think no, that like this mess up has been too bad. And this like, it's gone on too long. There's too much damage there for Harley to be this kind of newfound hero that she wants to be in Gotham City. And that's going to really create a lot of tension for Harley in our third arc. So yeah, I guess we're kind of like establishing a lot of the things around Harley, supporting cast, and what she wants to establish herself as in Gotham. And then we're going to kind of turn that upside down and see it from somebody else's perspective that really does not think Harley deserves this, as we kind of introduce a new, I hope, very terrifying player into Harley's world. Like I think Keepsake has shown us one side of, I basically want all of these characters to show us different sides of apologies and redemption. Keepsake will never take responsibility to the point where it's almost comical. Like you see how toxic he is and we can laugh at it because it's so hyperbolic. While Harley and Kevin are kind of dealing with their own versions of making amends. And then this new player that is about to enter offers an even different perspective on apologies and justness and or justice, and that's going to be a bit scarier for Harley to deal with than someone like Keepsake, that I think offers something that's such a direct distinction from her.
You brought it up. You said you haven't killed anybody, but there's that thing out there on Twitter that you've seen
Yeah.
to take over. That you, how did the idea that you killed comics come about? I think somebody was upset with something you wrote, and they tweeted that at you, and you've just taken that on, and I think it's hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
Good on you for doing that, because trolls on Twitter are unfortunately.
They are, yeah. I mean, I think the positive thing about the whole I killed comics thing, like, yeah, the comment that I received that said I killed comics in cold blood, which was in direct response to, I think it was the Harley cover that has her and Ivy, like it looks like a romance novel.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's, if I'm remembering correctly, I know it was a Harley cover. I think it was that one that they posted the comment on.
It sounds about right.
Yeah.
After the whole John Kent scenario, it sounds about right.
Yeah, absolutely. So people, or at least one person in particular, didn't like it. That line just stood out and kind of became, it was just kind of funny to me. And I think a lot of people kind of took towards it. And then we made shirts and pins with all the money going to the Trevor Project. There were just so many people supporting it that it was like, I think the positive thing about this, because I've been asked, like, does this turn you away from social media or anything? And no, because that was one person's comment. And I can say that like thousands of people supported the initiative to help the Trevor Project, like in this guy's name, which is super fun because I donated the money in his name. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. Like everybody kind of coming together to be like, yeah, that's one person. We disagree with this point of view, and we're going to also take that and do something positive with it. And I really appreciated that. And I think, the opposite happened. I actually feel like more positively about these online communities than I think I have before.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think most fans keep things in proper perspective. It's just a very small, toxic, acidic group of people that you run into every once in a while. And obviously you did a great job navigating that situation.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Wonder Woman Evolution miniseries that you are writing.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I love Diana. So I've had like a couple instances of getting to write, short stories for her or a one shot, but having an actual like 8-issue runway has been really incredible to get to play with like her history. So what we're doing is we kind of created this like entity or force that has put Earth on trial. Basically said that mankind or humankind has overstepped our evolutionary bounds. We can see it in the way that the planet is being destroyed, how many people we are destroying with the technology, that like there was a natural stopping point in like the growth and evolution of humankind, and it has been surpassed to the point where Earth or the people on it are a threat to the rest of the galaxy, almost like a weed that has overgrown. So the people that Diana is, kind of kidnapped by are arbiters of the universe, and they are giving her a chance to stand trial for humankind and basically make an argument for why they shouldn't just be extinguished. That is the starting point of it. This book has been really hard to solicit because there's another layer to the story. There's like a story within a story that if we talked more about, it would give away our like kind of twist ending of where we're headed.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been one of those things where it's like, man, I feel like when I write the solicits for it, I'm like horrible at it because it's like that is the surface level of what's going on. That's where we start our story. But we're also looking really in depth at Diana. I'm really interested in figuring out more about her. Like I feel like I have a really personal relationship to Harley, and I want that with Diana. So this is also a way to really like pick her apart to the point where we've taken away the bracers, the lasso, the costume that you would recognize. And we're asking like, in this other costume, in this other context where she's being pushed to the edge by people that basically think humankind shouldn't exist, that she's not a hero because all of these horrible things have happened. Like this evolutionary line that has been crossed, all these heroes of the world let that happen. Like there was no stopping point. Where was Diana? So kind of questioning her and her role in this, also questioning where she belongs. Like, is she an Amazon? Is she a human? Is she a hero standing with Superman and the Justice League? So asking kind of a lot of heavy questions that are going to weigh on Diana as we go. And we get a lot of guest appearances and cameos from people in her universe that I'm super excited about. Justice League, I've mentioned already. I think I've shown off some pictures with Superman in them, which I absolutely adore Superman. So I'm really glad that he has a kind of special place in the story. Yeah, and the villains will be kind of unexpected. Lots of different villains that we're kind of playing with here. And yeah, I think what we've also tried to do is create a story that can be read multiple times. So once you get to the end and you realize what has been happening or where we've been going with this, you can go to the beginning. And from issue 1, artist Mike Hawthorne has been like leaving really weird clues, because Diana's all about truth. And so we have, from the beginning of the story, been feeding the readers the truth. It's just hidden. And once you get to the end, you can kind of go back and reread the story and be like, oh, I see these like really weird like seeds or hidden bits of truth that, a lot of it is Mike. Mike has had these really cool ideas of places to like hide things in the issues. So it's, I think, going to be really cool and engaging for readers in hopefully a different way than other books that are out there.
That sounds fantastic. Can't wait to read it.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, since you said that you're a fan of Superman, is that the next thing that fans should start campaigning for you to write a miniseries about Superman? Because I totally buy that. Like, I think I tweeted at you on Twitter. I can't remember if I did or not. But if I was like running things at DC, which they'd never let me do because God help them, but if I was, there'd be like 3 writers doing everything. It'd be you, Tom Taylor, and Joshua Williamson. You'd just be writing everything.
Well, that is a pretty incredible group to be in.
So,
I love both of them.
Yeah. And I also see that you have Jordy Belair on the title too with you.
Yes.
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh, yes.
Yeah, colors.
I think I just shared her colors for the first time today. They are just incredible. I mean, her work on the entire book is incredible. Kind of seeing the full finished first issue colors letters, it's really cool. It's like, this is something I'm really proud of that has been really personal, and kind of using Diana as this voice and kind of stand-in for things that I want to discuss about the genre, about the character, why Diana has been so personal to me in my life. I mean, beyond the fact that I have a giant tattoo of her on my arm, like,
that's some commitment right there.
Yeah, I know. I have like a little Harley one on my other arm, and then actually the first one I got when I was 18, I got a Batman tattoo, and
awesome.
Some of my editors joke that I'm not getting, like, I'm getting paid extra from DC to be like a billboard for this stuff. But a lot of them, and I think that's what's cool, is like, I've been a fan. Like, that was something when I was 18, I knew I wanted a tattoo, and the tattoo artist was like, well, what means a lot to you? And I just said Batman, and he was like, wait, are you sure? And I was like, yes, Batman does mean a lot to me. Like, little 18-year-old me was like, that's all I can think of that matters so much in my life that I would permanently ink it on my skin. So I've been very committed to these characters, and that's kind of the way I see it, is just like, more than anything in the world, I am loyal to these characters that I grew up loving, and I want to make sure that I do right by them for my own purposes. Like, I absolutely adore them, and it's a really cool honor to get to voice them for even little bits here and there. Is cool.
And I think, at least from my point of view, I think you can tell in the work when somebody's a fan of these characters, and it definitely shines through in your work. So,
well, thank you.
Aside from what you've told us about the tattoos, it shines through in the work. So that's awesome.
You would have been such a fun college professor to have.
I'm telling you, it's like, can I go back? Can you like reteach me all my classes? Because I just
right.
sound like a really cool professor, and it's like, damn.
Thank you.
No offense to any of mine, but none of you were all that cool. I'm just gonna point that out. Unless you had Batman tattoos that I wasn't aware about. But anyway.
Right.
But we're aware that you're writing a creator-owned project for Comixology. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called We Only Kill Each Other. It's with artist Peter Krause and colorist Ellie Wright, letterer Troy Petrie. Yeah, I've been doing like so much superhero stuff lately that it's really nice to kind of jump back into a creator owned, and especially one that, if anyone has read my creator owned work, I very heavily gravitate towards historical fiction. So this is kind of like alternate history, but the starting point is something very real, which is prior to World War II, Jewish gangsters were actually enlisted to beat up the American Nazi movement that was growing specifically in New York City. They were led by someone who was calling themselves the American Fuhrer. They very much wanted the US to align with Germany, as you know, World War II was like really getting heated up. The US was intent at the time that they were not going to get involved. And so as such, they couldn't go beat up Nazis or people that were associated with that movement because it would be seen as taking sides. So they enlisted Jewish gangsters, and it became, you know, just all out brawls between Jewish gangsters and American Nazis, like in the streets of New York City, which is just crazy. So the story takes place in 1938, and it follows two Jewish gangsters that are actually currently like at war with each other, like a turf war. And they are both arrested and kind of in a Suicide Squad fashion, like given this ultimatum that, you know, they can serve the sentence, or they can go and beat up Nazis together, essentially.
Wow, this sounds really interesting. I'm impressed.
Thanks.
Also, anything involving beating up Nazis, like where do I buy it?
Exactly.
Where do I sign up?
Yes. Yep. And the title comes from Bugsy Siegel, who was an actual gangster. There was like a contractor or someone that was nervous to come do work on his house. And he basically told the guy, like, oh, don't worry about it. We only kill each other. Like, you know, as gangsters, they're really only at war with each other. And that's kind of like, our story starts that way, where our two gangsters that we're primarily following are just really interested in hating each other. They're very small turf war. But as the story progresses, they kind of feel more connected to a much larger Jewish history and their heritage. And that becomes like a really central theme, is like connecting to that through, of course, lots of violence, but you know, why they're doing that, and larger socio-political things that are happening in the world that kind of have some connections to, I think, you know, 2021.
Sounds
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Definitely on the lookout for
Thank
that.
you.
So, Stephanie, describe a normal workday for you. How does the magic happen?
Lots of coffee. Yeah, I mean, I think every day is different, and that's something that's it's definitely tough. You know, trying to write every day, you know, work from home every day. I don't really go anywhere, so just kind of trying to figure out, like, is today a day where I need to like consume content, or am I like in the mode where I can turn it all on and write? Like sometimes I don't have a choice. If a deadline's there, and I have to write. But I try to make it a point to like consume comics and take the time to once or twice a week really sit down and like read a bunch of stuff, and that helps a lot. And you know, trying to get out a little bit. Like my brother has like an office space, so I will go do like meetings and stuff at his office space to feel like I've gone to work. And then yeah, I'm a night person, so I write a lot at night too.
Wow, see, it's all part of the Batman fandom, being a night person.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
just gravitate towards.
yeah. Adam and I both understand that. So,
Oh yeah. I can't sleep at normal hours. It's not possible.
Nope. I know. Same.
But I know we talked about, you know, you talked about, you know, being a professor and all that. Is there anything outside of that you want to share with us, like any other hobbies, I know you're a hockey fan, at least I think you are.
Yeah, I am. I still play. I mean, I've played hockey for probably like 15 years, but let's see, probably like 3 months ago, I got a really bad concussion, like blackout concussion from playing. It's really interesting. Like since I cut my hair, like, you know, I used to play, I'm from Florida, so there was no girls hockey. It was just always boys hockey. And I've always had like a ponytail at the back of my helmet. And then I cut pretty much all my hair off, and it's just a really interesting difference to play when you've got like a face shield on, no
Right.
ponytail coming out the back, which is like a really distinct feature of like, okay, that's a girl on the ice. Or which like normally, except I guess one of my brother's best friends who plays hockey down here has like far longer hair than I've ever had, so it's pretty funny. But yeah, I guess I just like I got hit really hard, so I haven't played in a few months. But I will absolutely, once I find a place to play in Florida that hopefully is safer than a bunch of people that are not vaccinated.
Well, there's that thing. Still,
Yeah, exactly.
But it was funny because I saw that you posted a picture, I think, of your stick, and it had the stick tape, and it had like all the DC character
Yeah.
logos, and I'm like, see, that's cool. That's
Yep.
just, like the fact that you're a hockey fan, you play hockey, and you have superhero stick tape. That's like the trifecta.
Got
And
Superman
then-
and Batman. I
Yeah,
use
I
it
mean, how can you
sparingly
go
because I
wrong?
don't know where I got it.
How can you go wrong with that stick tape?
Absolutely.
And I'm actually quite jealous because your hockey team won the Stanley Cup and twice.
Yep.
I think, right? Tampa. You're a fan of
Uh-huh.
Tampa, right?
Twice in a row.
And mine hasn't
Yep.
won anything since I've been alive. So
Oh.
there's that. But maybe they should use your stick tape and they'll start, winning something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, we did kind of co-opt your jerseys, so
Which was cool because I can close my eyes and pretend.
right.
Once my team gets eliminated, which is your foregone conclusion, it's like, all right, if I
Right.
squint just enough, I can just pretend that it's a Leaf jersey.
Right. Or just like turn the Leafs jersey inside out, and if people ask, you can be
yeah.
like,
Well,
who knows? It's Schrodinger's jersey.
they
Could be
are the
Leafs
Bizarro.
lightning.
Tampa's basically the Bizarro version of us because they won
The
something.
Bizarro version, right?
So yeah, it's just you can tell I'm jealous and still bitter from last year's playoff disaster. But yeah, don't get me started on the hockey rant. Donnie, is there anything else you would ask before we?
No, what's funny though, you could actually watch our podcasts up until the playoffs, and we're so hopeful, so much optimism, and then after the playoffs, we're both like,
All right, back to depression.
so much resignation there. We just want to thank you for coming on the show, ma'am, and spending your time here. We appreciate it so much, and we are fans of your work. And why don't you tell people where they can find you online?
Yeah, Twitter is @Steph_Smash, and I think from there there's links to Instagram and website and shop and stuff from there.
That's awesome. Again, Stephanie, thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you back sometime, maybe after the Wonder Woman run or.
Indeed. Yes.
No, that's great. Well, thank you so much.
Be fun too. But thanks for joining us. And we'll be reading Wonder Woman and Harley, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Have a great weekend, ma'am.
You too.
Awesome. And that'll bring an end to the episode. We hope you all enjoyed it, and we hope you will join us next time. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.